At 63, Melissa Sue Anderson steps into the light, breaking decades of silence to reveal the hidden truths behind Little House on the Prairie. To millions, she was Mary Engles, the dependable, graceful eldest daughter, a figure of unwavering strength and poise. But behind the camera, the story was far more complex. Anderson witnessed the powerful presence of Michael Landon, the show's visionary yet commanding force, and the quiet resilience of Karen Grassel, the woman who stood her ground against creative and financial inequities. As a child actor, Anderson was thrust into storylines that tested emotional limits, portraying grief, blindness, and loss with a seriousness that belied her age. Every scene demanded authenticity, and every take carried the weight of adult tension she could barely comprehend. She absorbed the clashes between Landon and Grassel, the cold distances and unspoken strains, learning early that silence was survival. The warmth and camaraderie the audience saw masked the relentless pressures behind the scenes, shaping Anderson's understanding of responsibility, professionalism, and endurance. Over decades, she held these memories close, letting others tell parts of the story while she quietly bore witness to the complexities of power, creativity, and compromise on the set. Today, Anderson finally speaks, not to scandalize, not to sensationalize, but to humanize. She reflects on Landon's brilliance and flaws, Grassel's courage and frustration, and her own journey navigating a childhood under the spotlight that demanded more than most adults could endure. Her revelations illuminate the unseen struggles that shaped the show, offering fans a nuanced perspective on the sacrifices, triumphs, and resilience that defined Little House on the Prairie. Anderson's voice adds a final piece to a story of talent, power, and perseverance, transforming our understanding of the beloved series and reminding the world that behind every iconic performance, there are untold stories of endurance, courage, and the strength to finally speak the truth. At 63, Melissa Sue Anderson finally breaks a decades-long silence, revealing the untold truth behind Little House on the Prairie and the complex dynamics that shaped her life as a child actor. To the millions who grew up watching her, she was Mary Engles, the steadfast, graceful, and quietly strong eldest daughter, a symbol of resilience and composure. But behind the carefully crafted smiles, prairie dresses, and scripted tragedies, Anderson bore witness to a reality far more intricate and challenging than audiences could ever imagine. Michael Landon, the towering creative force behind the series, was both mentor and exacting authority, shaping every scene with intensity and precision, demanding emotional authenticity from a child still learning to navigate the world. At the same time, Karen Grassel, portraying Caroline Les, quietly fought for recognition, fairness, and respect in a system that undervalued her contributions despite her central role in maintaining the heart of the show. Anderson observed the tension between them, the clipped conversations, the silent riffs, and the shifting atmospheres behind the cameras, and understood early that survival often meant silence. As a child actor, she was entrusted with storylines of immense emotional weight, from portraying blindness to experiencing the grief of a lost sibling, scenes that required her to channel feelings she could scarcely comprehend. Each performance demanded maturity beyond her years, while every glance and whisper off-camera taught her lessons about power, influence, and the costs of speaking out. For decades, she carried these observations silently, watching Landon's brilliance and flaws, Grassel's courage and frustrations, and understanding the unspoken rules of navigating Hollywood as a young girl under immense scrutiny. When she finally chose to speak, it was not to cast blame or scandalize, but to illuminate the complexity, the human struggle, and the quiet resilience behind the iconic series, providing a perspective that reframes the history of the beloved show. Anderson's reflections reveal the full spectrum of childhood under the spotlight, the thrill of opportunity, the burden of expectation, the intricate dance between obedience and survival, and ultimately, the courage it took to preserve one's own sense of self while delivering performances that moved millions. By sharing her story at last, she honors the experiences of all child actors navigating worlds shaped by adults' ambitions, offering audiences not just nostalgia, but profound understanding of the hidden realities behind one of television's most cherished families, and reminding us that behind every iconic character, there is a human story of resilience, courage, and the eventual strength to finally speak the truth. At 63, Melissa Sue Anderson steps forward to finally tell her story, offering a rare and unfiltered look into the life behind the iconic Little House on the Prairie. For decades, She carried a weight unseen by the millions who adored her as Mary Engles, the calm, steadfast eldest daughter whose quiet strength anchored a television family that felt real to the audience. But behind the Prairie smiles and wholesome lessons, she observed a more complicated world. Michael Landon, the charismatic yet controlling force, shaping storylines, demanding perfection, and expecting emotional maturity from children not yet equipped to handle such pressure, and Karen Grassel, a woman fighting for her voice and respect in a system designed to elevate Landon while undervaluing her contributions. Anderson's perspective is that of a silent witness, seeing how power, authority, and talent collided on set, and how the adult dynamics force a young girl to navigate survival through discretion and professionalism. From her earliest days on set, Anderson was entrusted with the heaviest and most emotionally demanding storylines, portraying blindness, grief, and loss that would challenge even seasoned adult actors. These responsibilities shaped her craft, but they also shaped her childhood, forcing her to carry burdens she could scarcely understand and even less discuss. She absorbed the tension between Landon and Grassel, recognizing how the warmth of the show's public face often masked conflicts, negotiations, and frustrations behind the scenes. Her silence was not a lack of awareness. It was a survival mechanism, a way to maintain her role and protect herself while performing at a level that belied her age. As the series progressed, the emotional intensity deepened. Episodes depicting tragedy, suffering, and loss became part of Anderson's reality, leaving her to navigate feelings that could not easily be separated from performance. Simultaneously, she witnessed Grassel's determination to assert her rights, her courage in confronting Landon's authority, and the cost of that confrontation in the subtle erosion of warmth and collegiality on set. Anderson learned from both Landon's brilliance and intensity, Grassel's resilience and advocacy, while discovering that silence and careful observation were tools of survival. Now, reflecting back at 63, she explains how these experiences informed not only her approach to acting, but also her understanding of professional relationships, power, and personal boundaries in Hollywood. Her revelations do more than recount behind-the-scenes drama. They illuminate the human cost of producing television art, particularly for child actors thrust into adult dynamics. Anderson's story is a testament to resilience, the courage required to endure, and the eventual liberation found in speaking the truth. By breaking her silence, she offers audiences not scandal, but a profound understanding of the pressures, sacrifices, and complexities behind a series that millions cherished. It is a narrative of empathy and insight, capturing the juxtaposition of a wholesome public image with the nuanced realities that defined her formative years, ultimately reshaping the legacy of both Little House on the Prairie and the people who created it, including the extraordinary influence of Michael Landon and the unacknowledged strength of Karen Grassel. This is not just a story of a child star growing up on set. It is a revelation of a woman finally reclaiming her voice, providing a long-awaited perspective that reframes the history of an American television classic and honors the struggles and triumphs that remained hidden for decades. At 63, Melissa Sue Anderson finally breaks the decades-long silence that has both protected and defined her, offering an unflinching, deeply personal account of life behind the camera on Little House on the Prairie for millions. She was Mary Engles, the dependable eldest daughter whose quiet strength anchored the beloved television family. But for Anderson, childhood was a crucible, shaped by intense storylines that demanded emotional maturity far beyond her years. From the outset, she was entrusted with tragedy, blindness, grief, and loss, crafted under the exacting eye of Michael Landon, who was not only the show's leading man but also its architect, writer, and director. Landon's brilliance was undeniable. He saw Anderson's potential and wrote roles that showcased her extraordinary depth, yet that recognition came with immense pressure. Behind the wholesome Prairie backdrop, Anderson was a child immersed in adult conflicts, observing Karen Grassel's quiet but resolute battles for respect, navigating the tensions between the show's creative authority and the unspoken inequities of the industry. Anderson's silence was survival. She absorbed the weight of her character's heartbreak, the friction between adults, and the relentless expectations placed on her, learning to master composure while her peers often struggled. The set was a stage of contrast, warmth and discipline, guidance and control, opportunity and sacrifice, where Anderson's talent flourished alongside her awareness of the hidden costs. Each storyline, from Mary's debilitating loss of sight to the devastating death of her character's child, became a mirror of emotional intensity that required Anderson to perform grief she could scarcely understand, all while maintaining the facade of a perfect, serene child actor. Grassel's courage in confronting inequities highlighted to Anderson the cost of speaking out in a world dominated by Landon's towering presence. This duality, the burden she carried and the lessons she absorbed, shaped her not just as an actress but as a person, instilling resilience and insight that would remain latent until she found a voice to tell her story decades later. Now, Anderson recounts her experience with honesty that transcends nostalgia or gossip, framing Landon as both mentor and demanding authority, and Grassel as a model of professional fortitude, illuminating the complex human dynamics that defined a set beloved by millions but fraught with hidden pressures. Her reflections are not simply about past hardships. They are a testament to endurance, the subtle negotiation of power, and the courage to reclaim one's narrative after years of silent observation. By finally speaking, Anderson reclaims her own history, offering fans and viewers a richer, more nuanced understanding of the realities behind the Prairie, the personal cost of storytelling, and the resilience required to navigate a childhood under the lens of both artistry and authority. This is more than the story of a child star. It is a revelation of the interplay of talent, power, and survival, and the way a young girl learned to carry, process, and ultimately share the truths of her formative years in Hollywood. Her narrative reshapes the legacy of Little House on the Prairie, transforming a familiar tale of family and frontier life into a layered story of endurance, courage, and the power of voice reclaimed after silence, highlighting how one woman's perseverance offers perspective not just on a beloved series, but on the often unseen realities of the television industry itself. AT63. Melissa Sue Anderson finally lifts the veil on a childhood spent in the intense glare of Hollywood spotlight, sharing a story decades in the making that few could have imagined. For audiences, she was Mary Engles, the composed, dependable eldest daughter of the Les family on Little House on the Prairie, whose quiet strength anchored the series' moral center. But behind the camera, Anderson's experience was a far more complex tapestry of pressure, emotion, and silent observation. As a child, she was entrusted with storylines that required her to portray grief, blindness, and unimaginable loss, responsibilities that demanded emotional maturity far beyond her years. Michael Landon, the show's creator, director, and leading man, recognized her potential and placed immense trust in her abilities, often crafting scenes of heartbreak that blurred the line between performance and reality. At the same time, Anderson bore witness to tensions between Landon and Karen Grassel, who played Caroline Les, tensions rooted in inequities of pay, creative control, and professional recognition. Anderson, too young to fully comprehend the dynamics, nonetheless absorbed the subtle shifts in atmosphere, learning early that survival in such a world required observation, restraint, and silence. The duality of her role, both as a young actress carrying the heaviest narrative burdens and as a silent witness to adult conflict, shaped not only her performance but her understanding of human resilience and compromise. She mastered the art of delivering heartbreaking performances while maintaining her composure, absorbing the pressures that could have shattered a less capable child actor. Anderson's silence was never passive. It was a deliberate, protective mechanism, a way to navigate a set dominated by Landon's brilliance and authority while recognizing Grassel's courage in standing her ground. The complexity of her experience, the intertwining of opportunity, challenge, mentorship, and unspoken conflict, remained locked within her for decades, even as co-stars shared their recollections and fans assumed the Prairie was a place of simplicity and warmth. Breaking her silence was an act of reclamation, a decision to share not just a perspective, but the nuanced realities behind one of television's most beloved series. Her reflections illuminate how Hollywood demands can shape childhoods, how power dynamics influence both art and life, and how resilience can be forged through observation, discipline, and strategic silence. Anderson's story reframes Little House on the Prairie from a nostalgic family drama to a testament to perseverance, endurance, and the quiet strength required to survive in a world where the lines between fiction and reality often blur. By sharing her account now, she offers audiences a deeper understanding of the show's hidden complexities, highlighting the emotional cost borne by those who created its magic and the courage it took to finally speak the truth she carried for decades. Her narrative not only honors the craft and vision of Landon and the strength of Grassel, but also reclaims her own voice, demonstrating that the power of storytelling extends beyond the screen to the lived experiences of those who bring it to life. Melissa Sue Anderson's revelation is more than a memoir. It is an essential piece of television history, shedding light on the hidden realities of childhood in Hollywood, the dynamics of mentorship and authority, and the personal resilience required to navigate a career built on both artistry and endurance. Her account will resonate with fans and industry insiders alike, providing insight into the costs of fame, the demands of professional rigor, and the courage it takes to finally speak after decades of silence, transforming the legacy of the Prairie into a story of human strength, perseverance, and truth reclaimed. Melissa Sue Anderson's story at 63 is not just a revelation of her own journey, but a window into the complex machinery of Hollywood itself, where brilliance and power often carry hidden costs. For decades, she navigated a landscape shaped by Michael Landon's towering presence, his creative genius coupled with intense demands, and Karen Grassel's quiet but resolute battles for recognition and famous. Anderson's experience was unique. As a child, she bore the emotional weight of storylines that demanded the portrayal of profound grief, blindness, and loss, often pushing her beyond the limits of childhood understanding. Each scene she performed was layered with emotional labor, while behind the camera, she witnessed tensions, negotiations, and power struggles that were invisible to the audience. She learned to compartmentalize, to observe silently, and to deliver heartbreaking performances with a composure that belied her age. This duality, acting as a vessel for grief on screen while absorbing adult conflicts off screen, shaped her understanding of resilience, patience, and the subtle forms of courage required to survive in the entertainment industry. Breaking her silence now, Anderson not only recounts the personal toll of her formative years but reframes the legacy of Little House on the Prairie, revealing how childhood brilliance, adult ambition, and unseen battles coexisted on a set that the public believed was idyllic. She honors the creative vision and mentorship of Landon while simultaneously acknowledging the human cost of his relentless drive, and she amplifies Grassel's fight for respect, creating a layered portrait of collaboration, conflict, and endurance. Her reflections demonstrate that the Prairie's warmth was inseparable from its shadows, and that surviving in such an environment demanded more than talent. It required quiet strength, observation, and strategic silence. For fans and historians alike, her story is a testament to the unspoken realities of Hollywood, the courage of child actors, and the enduring power of truth reclaimed after decades of silence. Melissa Sue Anderson's narrative is not merely a behind-the-scenes account. It is an essential lens on the intersection of artistry, authority, and personal fortitude, revealing how one young actress bore, endured, and ultimately triumphed over the hidden complexities of her profession. Her decision to finally speak illuminates the sacrifices behind the performances that shaped a generation, the intricate balance of mentorship and control, and the profound resilience necessary to navigate fame at an early age. In doing so, she transforms the story of Mary Engles into a story about human endurance, emotional intelligence, and the courage to finally reclaim one's voice, turning a beloved television legacy into a deeply human narrative of survival, observation, and truth unveiled after more than 4 decades.